current issues and challenges, opportunities for constructive change, and we're going to be looking at identifying and mitigating issues and considerations in moving forward. And then questions, we're going to leave that till the end of the presentation. So that I'm speaking directly to you, I'm going to turn to my notes. Okay. So inherent and systemic issues, and I guess I'd like to just give you a short precursor to this. I think we realize that, you know, the reason why we haven't been at the table is because there's some deeper rooted issues. I don't think it's because we don't like each other. I think that there certainly is some real issues that we need to look at. And the first one is, you know, and I'm only saying this because it was kind of funny at the time, and that I've often heard that you municipalities are creatures of the province, right? So the city of Elliott Lake is a relatively new creature in the forest. 50 years. First Nations values and traditions have been impacted by colonialism, and that's something that the National Chief had spoke about here this morning, this afternoon. Two very different goals. I think that if you look at the context of when, back around the turn of the century, the 1900s, that when the city of Elliott Lake was just, you know, a thought towards mining. I think at that time, First Nations were responding to the colonial crisis and paternalism of Indian policies, and the city, their imperative was pretty much to do with resource exploitation and using the land to build. And I think that those are two very key points in moving forward in the presentation. So in that, what I'm saying in my presentation is that based on that premise, that sets up two very different relationships with the Crown, and we're still experiencing that today. That's how powerful that point is. Different laws, different outcomes. I will speak about that in my next slide. So what did that create? I think it created an uneven playing field and a lopsided score and capacity. So the score is pretty lopsided, and definitely the outcomes of having different relationships with the Crown is certainly is problematic as well. The last part of the inherent and systemic issues that I'd like to make is that the treaty implementation process is not a lost page in history, rather a serious modern challenge for the Crown. And, you know, again, I'm so grateful for the National Chief speaking the way he did today so eloquently, because it makes that point seem a little less more, or a little bit more comprehensive, I think, because basically it is about the treaty. That's why I'm standing here today. It's because of the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850. So the culture of disconnectedness, municipal and First Nation relationships, and I guess this is where I'd like to spell a little bit out about what the divide is and what some of the issues are. So on the municipal side, we can see that we've got a general mindset of corporate law, and it's pretty clear by the provincial jurisdiction in the Municipal Act that you know, there's a lot of corporate legalese within the structure and the activities at the council tables and how things are done in municipalities. And the last point there is the fact that you know, the municipalities are constantly seeking to develop, enhance economies, and the concept and the fuel of taxation is really what keeps infrastructures built moving forward and keep the quality of life in municipalities at a standard of level. On our side, you know, to this day, based on all the things that happen, our people still are poised from the position that it's about Anishinaabe law. We have inherent rights prior to the treaty, and that mindset is so ingrained into our DNA, it's just automatically thought we are First Nations people. We have rights that existed even prior to the treaty, and those are based on Anishinaabe law. From a jurisdictional point of view, again, we are, I'm not going to call us creatures of the federal government, because we are absolutely not. We are dealing with federal jurisdiction on our lands. And basically, a lot of that jurisdiction comes out of the discourse of the Indian Act. And basically, the two parallels at the bottom of that presentation, that slide there, economies crossed over to the treaties in the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850, has to do with the fact that a lot of the transfer payments and the agreements and the fiscal back and forth between government and First Nations is really a struggle about honoring the treaty and ensuring that there's a share from the resources that are extracted in the territory. So the history of the relationship, the first 2 points is that the Anishinaabe again are inherent to the Serpent River watershed. So I often make the point that there's something that's pretty clear, that pretty much most of the people in Elliott Lake will not find their DNA in a 500-year-old tree up and around Elliott Lake, but I think we'll find traces of our DNA there, and it's pretty clear. We were there since time immemorial, and that's something that we all have to come to put into the mix and moving forward. Elliott Lake, primary mining of the 50s, and it was a pretty nice thing to see this last couple of years when Elliott Lake celebrated their success, and we truly believe that. And the work that was done to build that community, and the work that was done to make sure that it remained alive. And in the last few years, we've seen a lot of struggle and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that this city was healthy again. And I commend leadership like Mayor Hamilton and previous leadership, George Farku, for their hard work. Cohabitation, I think, in the last 50 years, we've lived together to some degree. The boom-bust cycle of the uranium industry, there's a lot of history there with regard to the citizens of Elliott Lake, the businesses, the government, the local government. But if you really look back, there's really not a whole lot in terms of collaboration and working with the First Nation. Limited relationship in the 50s, 50 years as neighbors. So I just want to kind of speed this up now to 2007, when we had established the formal signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, which was last September. And the Memorandum of Understanding was really the priorities that we were going to work on as a group, the two councils coming together with their resource people to start moving things along. But prior to that, we had quite a substantial amount of work to do, several meetings to go through in order to build the terms of reference that would actually get us to the point of establishing those priorities. The unique formalized province nation-to-nation relationship through a municipal/First Nation process. And what I mean by that, and I would ask the delegates here to pay special attention to that, because really one of the first principles that we have to understand is that First Nations are not a corporate entity. We're not your typical type of local government. We are really a nation that's stuck within a very paternalistic and racist piece of legislation called the Indian Act, which really restricts us in being able